South African consumers scored a 400 million rand windfall last year after interventions by the country's insurance ombuds office. The monies came mainly from long-term insurance and short-term insurance payouts and premium refunds for consumers. Right now, the short-term insurance ombud is taking motor insurers to task for rejecting claims on the basis that a driver was reckless. Joining us now to explain the nature and handling of the processes to protect consumers and level the playing field is the Deputy Ombudsman for the long-term insurance, Denise Gabriels. Denise, good evening and thank you very much for your time and joining us tonight here on In Focus. Let's talk about what were the circumstances that led to the Ombuds seeing an increase in complaints, particularly made around the long-term insurance.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. Sorry, could you just repeat that last part of your question, please?
What are the circumstances that led to the increase in complaints between the 2021-2022 financial year?
All right, so we just reported on the 2021 financial and statistics, the number of complaints, and there was a 22% increase in the number of complaints compared to 2020, which was already a bumper year. And what we ascribe it to is the increase in claims due to COVID-19. We definitely saw an increase in claims about funeral policies and funeral benefits, as well as credit life policies. And because there are increasing number of claims, insurers were also challenged with working from home in many instances and then not having access to information or the policyholders not being able to reach them. So it wasn't only about claims being declined, but also about poor service.
Yeah. What do these then complaints show, particularly about the nature of the industry, but also about the need for an ombuds?
So the ombud's been in existence since 1985, and it's an industry arrangement. It was, and it's now being regulated and has been for a while. New regulations have come into place. But people have an opportunity to complain about whether they think the insurer has treated them unfairly or declined a claim that, or there's poor service, whatever the issue is, or misselling, that they can complain without needing to go to an attorney or get legal representation. They can also complain informally in any one of the 11 languages. And, claims get declined, and as you could see, we, and our office got back 200.7 million rand, and together with the short-term insurance, it was just short of 400 million rand. Yeah. That we were able to get back for complainants. In our case, in our offices, and that is the long-term insurance ombudsman, we also got compensation of just shy of R1 million awarded to complainants, where we thought that the complainant was suffered material and gross inconvenience as a result of the poor service delivered by the insurer. Yeah. So I definitely think there is good reason for ombuds. We're not the only ombudsman. Credit and banking also have their ombudsman.
Yeah. Are you happy with the quality of the outcomes and the swiftness of the responses?
From the insurers?
Yes.
So we managed to get 34, just over 34% resolved in favor of complainants, either wholly or partially. And sometimes it's not always about the monetary compensation that we get for complainants. We also managed to, have policies reinstated where they were lapsed before. Sometimes it's poor service, as we've mentioned, or other aspects, of a complainant's unhappiness. So yes, I think that we have, managed and gotten positive responses from insurers in many instances. We're also able to make a ruling against an insurer. And once we've made the ruling against the insurer, they are generally held to that ruling. There is an appeal mechanism which both parties can appeal our rulings, but that is far and few between. On the whole, the insurers do. In fact, we have a mechanism where we do a provisional ruling, giving both parties the opportunity to respond to that ruling, which sets us up our preliminary view. And once we've issued that, both parties, as I say, have an opportunity to challenge that, and only then will we make a final ruling. And we've only managed to make one final ruling against an insurer, and I think that's largely because insurers, once we've issued the provisional ruling, they abide by that.
Yeah. The Ombuds chairperson, however, has flagged one particular tendency, that is the rising tendency among insurers to adopt a litigious stance. How do you plan to address this with the insurers?
Yes, so Judge McLaren has raised that, and in competence we also have a policy for unreasonable complainants, and there's certain characteristics that we say, when complainants are demanding or the language they use, etc., but also make unreasonable demands or unreasonable arguments. And he likened that to some insurers. There are not many of them, but there are. And he was speaking on behalf of both short-term insurers and long-term insurers when he made that comment.
All right. We appreciate your time. Denise, thank you very much for coming on. Deputy Ombudsman for Long-Term Insurance, Denise Gabriels.